one of our ways to try to keep cool as our globe continues to warm. But particularly where I'm from, they're pretty much everywhere, like Renaissance festivals and stuff like that. They're always there. But it's just, I mean, they just run off regular city water pressure. They just reduce it down to a mist, and it's probably similar to what you probably see at the grocery store where they mist the vegetables. It's the same thing. It hasn't been on that long, but after a while it should start to cool the area directly around them. Not entirely sure how an air conditioner works, but there's some sort of heat exchange going on, and there's this new device that is actually a mister that hooks up, solar powered. It hooks up to the edge of your air conditioning unit, and it just mists. And I guess the idea is that it's supposed to just from evaporative cooling effect, it's supposed to actually allow your air conditioner to be at least 30% more efficient, which is a neat idea because you can't really do the evaporative cooling effect inside a home because you end up humidifying your home. You get a humid climate, you don't want to be using a swamp cooler to cool it. But those are pretty efficient, and they're like evaporative cooling. It's what skin uses to cool off. This is our version of what it means to be sustainable. Erin and I do market gardening, so we sell at the Nelsonville Farmers Market. Overall, we're not a very big operation. We're trying to reinvent what small means and how small you actually can be and be sustainable. How small can you be, and how much stuff can you produce by yourself? You've probably heard this a million times, like, well, you can't produce everything. And we're actually becoming quite surprised as we go along at how much stuff you can produce yourself. We're still reliant and dependent on quite a lot of stuff that we still can't produce ourselves, but it comes down to like capturing your own rainwater, producing your own food, making your own energy, and the list of course goes pretty extensively. We don't do all of it, obviously, but we're actually just quite surprised what we have been able to do and can do. So our solar system that we have is just a really small Renogy 300 watt system with 3 batteries. It's not a very big system, but we've been able to run like all of our lights. We run all of our gadgets. DC energy is really attractive to us because actually in the 21st century quite a lot of things have their own batteries, and they're natively already DC. We do a 12 volt. We have so many gadgets that we charge. Laptops, tablets, phones, portable DVD players. There's just so many things that are just natively DC. This solar array, which is a 2-panel up to just you've probably seen these in your car. They're just hooking stuff up directly with DC, 12 volt like this. Camping, RVs, everybody already has these portable options. That fan right there is a 12 volt fan you can get off of 12 volt travel.com. They have tons of 12 volt things like coffee makers and blenders, and it's incredible. And they all use this. So this is directly off the solar panel, but you can do batteries as well if you want. That's kind of where we started, and I recommend anyone who's going to get into solar in any respect to start with DC and to start with a fan. It makes sense because when the sun's shining, you got a fan. It's like perfect. It cancels it out. Like when it's not shining, you don't need it. It's not like a box fan. It's actually 30-40 watts. Usually box fans are about 200 watts AC, and that's 200 watts out there. So I have 200 watt panels, so it's pretty much overkill for that, but I'm also demonstrating that you could have an array that's grabbing all this energy and you don't really have to use it all. Pretty powerful little fan for not being very big. Back in the day when people had solar anything, so all solar was really expensive. So it was like pretty much off the table for most people. Whether you're talking about photovoltaic or like traditional solar thermal, it was all expensive. But I think the photovoltaic was always traditionally more expensive than like solar thermal, like just the black panels. But that's kind of switching, and so typically right now, photovoltaic has plummeted in price. Germany, they have ditched the solar thermal because of the price has gone down so far on photovoltaic, that there's actually a lot of just direct solar photovoltaic options, and one of those is water heating. So this device that I've gotten here, it's from a company called Missouri Wind and Solar, and they sell 12 and 24 volt DC water heating elements that have the same threads as your water heater, your AC one. It's the same threads, so the probe unscrews and you can put a DC one in it and run it off of solar. and they have them anywhere from 200 watts on up to 700 watts. And the idea is that even though it's a low energy output, it's kind of a low and slow sort of a thing. It's low current, low wattage, but yet if you let it run all day long, it builds up the heat. Whereas the AC ones seem to like just really slam power, like energy into the water and really like get it hot fast. This particular unit, it has a thermostat on it and everything, and again, it's hot swappable. But I was heating it with those two panels earlier today, and you can feel the water actually did get pretty comfortable to shower in. I'll show you the cistern. So when we got here, Erin's dad had put in two cistern tanks, and your guys are sitting on them right now. There's twin tanks, 1,700 gallons apiece. They're fabulous. They're concrete tanks. I think they're sealed up. Nothing like super high tech, but this roof that we're under right here gathers all the rainwater, and it all goes down in here. And what I built here, using just a plain old submersible pump that he had laying around, put this straw in here, this water pipe, just PVC, and using solar power we can actually use the water from these tanks. For
watering or for filling buckets.
Since they are below grade, this addition was something I used to actually get it to be able to use water in the winter time. It's possible because since it's below grade, there's not even, like even below freezing, there's not even so much as a skin of ice on top of these. Like it's always liquid water. When you have animals, like we have a few animals that we raise for food and meat, or for eggs and stuff. In the wintertime, it's kind of a nightmare because you have to like take the buckets in and thaw them inside and then swap them out, and it's just like a pain. So this is always liquid water. Not a lot of people know this, but you kind of stumble across these facts like by accident. But I was like just filling from the cistern into the root cellar, which had the same effect. Mm-hmm. I was filling into a barrel. Since I noticed like, hey, this barrel doesn't ever like freeze either. And I was like, I'm smarter than this, and I just set this up so that I could actually just take directly out of the cistern and not have to pump it somewhere else. And so the funny thing about that is that usually if you do run water of any kind in the wintertime, you use hoses and stuff, you have to drain them and make sure they're all completely empty before you call it a night, because you wake up the next morning and the hoses will all be frozen. But this thing does not freeze because like as soon as it's done pouring water, then it just drains right back. So there's absolutely nothing to freeze. The pump is just below the it's on the end of this rod like that.
Alright. So is it the pump solar powered?
Yes. Yeah, right now it is.
It's a submersible pump.
Yes.
It is.
It's just running directly off of DC.
Yes.
It's
well,
AC,
it's AC.
I'm sure we could get a better DC one, but that's the one we had, and it is a dream to have water in the winter that doesn't freeze.
Yeah.
We also have this hand pump too, in case of no electricity, but I have to drain that in the winter, or it will freeze.
That comes out of the cistern also.
It does, yeah.
So where does the water come from?
It's off of this metal roof here.
It's just rainwater you've collected?
It is.
So how long does that last? Do you have a way to measure how much you have?
I don't, but if it's any indication, this last month of dry weather that we had, we didn't even use half of it. And we watered a lot of things, we used it for the animals, and it was so nice to have.
Yeah. This has been one of the biggest gifts we have gotten since we got here. This got put in obviously for the purposes of using it for all types of water, not just plants and animals, but for actual drinking water as well. Still exploring like ways to pump and filter that, but just having this not on a bill has just been amazing for our market garden business, because I think when we got here and we had to use a lot of water, we made the water bill go up, and it's just, it can be a burden. So this has been tremendous for us. It's free. I'm sure the pump's going to go out someday, but until it does, like we got free rainwater, and like currently this is our solar inverter that runs it. We're not doing DC with this, but they do have DC submersible pumps as well. And if you really wanted to pump a pressurized water, it wouldn't be any different than what you use for a well. They have a bladder, and so they actually take water from like a well and they pressurize it or pump it into a tank that has an air bladder, and that just adds pressure to it, and then it comes out of anybody that has a well can attest that it's just like city water. It's just pressure. So we want to do something similar with that, like with this. But until we do that, we've got this way to do it. So yeah, there's 3 of those identical Renogy 100-watt panels up front, and they go to 3 batteries that we have. So again, a very small system. We get away with that because of the storage. That's like, cannot stress it enough. Storage is, it could take less capture and turn it into just tremendous amounts of energy, because again, like if we're out and we're not using energy at the house, if we're just out and we come home, the batteries are full and we just like use them. So not a lot of people realize how much if you're not using energy, you still get to have it. And so you can turn 300 watts into basically, each battery is 60 amp hours times 12 volts. So that's, so you do the math, 720 watt hours times 3. We've got, what, 2.1 kilowatt hours of energy from 300 watts.
Only half of it is usable.
For battery life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For your
Yeah,
battery.
correct, yeah. Well, the more batteries you have, of course, I've read that it kind of helps them all go down less.
So we're going to continue to add on to that system,
Yeah.
as well as we want to do another on our grid-tied larger house system. But
Right.
Are you off the grid?
Not completely. We've
Working on it.
got about a down payment of half of a system from Randall Gabriel, who's got Athena Solar. We got a down payment of half of it saved up, so we're still waiting for our system. We were going to put in was like going to be a 1.2 kilowatt system, so it wasn't very big. He was actually quite shocked at what we were using. So yeah, but we have that goal.
How
And
much
it'll
was
be
that going to cost?
3,000 if we go with the 1.2, and he was recommending we bump it up to the 3, but I don't know if we really need to.
Yeah.
But that will be grid tied, and so that will be sort of a net metering sort of scenario. We have a solar mower that we use that's battery powered. All of our drills are again battery powered, lithium ion DeWalt drills. Again, you get to have a lot of energy with batteries, because like everything has its own little reserve. It's fabulous.
they can charge slower than they're actually running. It's not like you're currently running 500 watts to turn something. You are, what, it's like 60 watts to charge some of them, or less?
Or less, yeah. Like a laptop or something. It's really not that much.
When the cistern is full and it rains, do you have some automatic feature that...
It does. It
Puts
has an overflow. So Dick built in just a tube
valve
at the
or
top, some check valve that just like goes. So it never overflows here or anything like that. With the exception of like birds pooping on roofs, you've got a galvanized steel roof that basically is pretty clean to capture rain water off of. There's so much water compared to any bacterial load that might be that it's just not a problem. Like, I've drank it and it's fine. It tastes clean, but you're talking about very low bacterial load in the first place, and bacteria cannot just thrive. They have to have food. You've probably heard of Berkey filters, but they're a water filter that uses a ceramic cartridge, which is interesting. So you put the water in, and somehow the pores in the ceramic, they're so tiny that it just like it filters nothing but water through. They also have a version that has carbon chunks that are very similar to a Brita filter. They last way longer. And the ceramic ones, like, they're supposed to filter out viruses and bacteria. You just need like a quick brushing every once in a while to kind of clean the cartridge. So we're getting ready to get one of those, and that'll take us a little further off the grid. So
Yeah,
we try to use the water up, and so far we have not made a dent. Anyway, we're getting a little nervous. Like, you could pop the lid open and kind of see the water. In the wintertime, it's all the way up to the top. But getting a little nervous, and then we got that big rain just recently, and I was like, yes. So,
There's actually another cistern like these behind this root cellar. It needs resealed on the inside, but other than that, we could have that much more water in here.
And you could have gravity feed.
Yes,
Correct.
and gravity feed.
it's sealed with a special spackling. In sustainability language, what people are usually trying to do is cut costs. That's the trick to being small and not relying so much on so much money. Cutting off-farm expenses, and that's the one thing that farmers these days are trying to explore how to do, And this is one of those that we have discovered that is a way to stretch your food dollar for feeding animals. It's called a fodder system or a sprouting system. You can buy them, but we built this one just based on designs from on the internet. If you can sprout grain instead of giving it to the animals whole or ground up in a pelletized format, at no point in a plant's life does it ever have more nutrients than if you sprout it. You can eat a seed, and if you can unlock the nutrients, that's one matter, but usually digestive systems you can't. The seed means for you not to, because that's the enzymatic way they work. A seed has enzyme inhibitors that keep it from sprouting, and should it start to sprout, that's when all the nutrients unlock and you have a young plant that has a tremendous powerhouse of nutrients. Get a little older, the plant, same scenario, maybe less nutritious, and it's now starting to put all of its energy into the seed. You quadruple the
At least
bulk
triple
of it.
the weight and feed value of your feed. So typically people use either barley or wheat berries for this project, and it is something I've learned the hard way that actually works better during the winter time, which is good because your animals don't have pasture pretty much through the winter. And it's something green, it's something full of enzymes, and most of them really love it. We've fed it to turkeys, chickens, rabbits, ducks. Even the ducks like it if you pull it apart a little bit. You take grain, you soak it overnight, at least 12 hours, and then in this system we've taken it and poured it into pieces of vinyl guttering that we got capped ends for, and we drilled holes at one end, and therefore if you water up here on the top, and then the water will drain down to the bottom through all the trays, and you start one just about every day, then you get a progression of different stages of sprouts, and I feed about one tray out every time. I was saying it doesn't work as well in the summer. There's obviously mold issues. There are ways to get around that. I'm still learning, but you kind of get a mat of grass and roots on the bottom, and you can pull it apart, feed a chunk to somebody. They really love it, and I've made these covers to keep mice out, obviously. So in the winter we have it inside, and we can hang a LED light here, and that'll help the top layer green up so that you have your greens.
On the winter side of this process, you sometimes have temperatures too cold to sprout, so you might need to have a heated house for this. And then on the summer side of things, you've got fruit flies, it gets a little sour. It's a process that can be perfected and controlled better than we're doing it here. In fact, it can be done on a large scale, actually.
People
are
quite
doing
large systems.
Very large systems. This is ours. It's all DIY, pallet material, stuff from Lowe's. I mean, it works. And the animals love it. One of the things we feed, in addition to pasture, over here, I'll show you what's going on over here. Oh, that's just about to go.
Yeah.
That's cool.
No, you got potatoes that are done.
I cannot recommend these things enough. They are fabulous. This device is winning awards everywhere. It's on ZDNet. Everyone's covering this device. It is a solar cooker that uses evacuated tube technology, and the guy who invented it, I guess, actually lived here in Athens. I think he worked at Dovetail Wind and Solar, and he now lives in Cincinnati. If you have solar thermal devices, you have to drain the water out of them if it's hot water in the wintertime because they have a tendency to freeze. Solar PV systems, there's no draining. The other option for heating water with solar is this evacuated tube technology. Now you can use, the tubes come in arrays, and the copper tubes that heat the water are just copper tubes with a fin, and they're painted black, and they go inside these tubes, and the tubes are just lined up in arrays. And so the cool thing about those is they can't freeze because the technology that's at work here is an evacuated tube. So basically the outermost layer is glass. Past that is vacuum. So it's a double layer of glass with complete vacuum. Past that is a black layer and a copper layer. So that's what actually gathers the heat. So when heat gets in this tube, it cannot leave. Like, it's a perfect insulation. The guy who invented this, he was installing those systems actually for water heating. One day he's like enjoying his lunch, stuck a hot dog in there, and it cooked it very nicely. So this thing works very well with any amount of sun. Their website shows a guy from Siberia using one. There's snow on the ground. It's I'm sure it's well below zero, and he's still got steam coming out of it. It's cloudy right now. It does work better with more sun.
If you have hot sun though, you give it maybe 20 minutes of preheat time. You put food in it because you don't want to heat it empty. But after that, your food's done usually in about 20 minutes.
Right.
It's pretty great.
This is potatoes right now.
And then I was going to show just the other tray we have. We did shiitakes. These are yours. And red onions and some olive oil. Stainless steel sword-looking thing. But what's neat about these is you can fit this much food in it, or if you stick it in there, put it in a little bit, and then cram it full with a spoon and add more. Cram it in until the entire round space is full, and you can get enough food for 4 people that way instead of say 2. They're making larger versions of this. They have one now that's called a Gosan Grill. They will be able to do a whole chicken or a loaf of bread that size of diameter.
This thing rocks. I mean, this thing, Erin and I use it all the time. You'd be actually quite surprised how many tube-shaped foods there are. Like there's
they're quite
egg rolls
hot.
and burritos.
Anybody wants to see
if you
how
go down
hot
the list
that
of
is.
junk food, there's no end to it. But it works good for chopped vegetables. Like cleaning is a little awkward, but it can be done. The tube actually comes with a scrubber that screws on the end of it. It's sort of like a scouring pad, and so you put water in it after it's cooled. The inventor was really recommending using it like sort of like a self-cleaning oven, where if you put water in it, and you leave it on the sun, it'll actually break up whatever might not be able to be cleaned. So it's actually not too bad. There is a learning curve, like cooking with the sun. You track the sun. It's easier than it sounds. You just basically have to be generally facing it.
The trick is to stand like right in front of it and try to have your head hide the sun. Well, we found this piece of glass someone threw away, and this is a picnic table turntable that really helps us follow it every hour or so. Come out and adjust it if you're cooking all day.
Yeah, we'll put something in, and we'll be buzzing around the garden and farm and just like have something in it, like potatoes or like brats or something, and it's great. The rated temperature is supposed to be 700 degrees without food and 500 with. So it can get very hot.
Pretty much boiling everything.
Yeah, there's no chance of bacterial infection. The moisture stays in there, with the exception of this little tiny crack here. The silicone has a little vent, so it can come out a little bit.
We are growing ginger, and we did this last year, had great luck with it. It's a lot of fun. It'll get about 3 feet high, and over the summer we'll get the young ginger. I will tell you, it took several weeks of watering it in starting mix in a pot to get it to start to come up with shoots, and then I transferred it out here.
Did you just take a piece of ginger though?
I take the whole hand of ginger, and what I found last year is I planted about a pound and I got about 5 pounds back.
Wow.
Plus, at least for the young ginger stage, the mother root doesn't seem to rot, so I got it to grow all summer, make babies, and I got to eat the original root, so that was pretty great.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it likes a lot of water, heat, and manure, but other than that, pretty darn easy. And we just installed a drip irrigation system in here from, you can see there's a rain barrel over there by the vegetable washing station.
I see some device down there.
Gravity fed, works well. They kind of look like a hand with fingers, and when they're young, they're real thin-skinned and pink and green instead of quite your ginger color. But this one here I actually dug up when it was 3 feet tall last fall, put it in a pot in the house, and it dried out and looks like the store-bought ginger. So I think that's your secret. They need just a few more months maturing. Official ginger, yeah.
Like it when it's young. So I froze it that way, and so then all winter I could just freeze it. So it was still great having it all.
They had Muscovy ducks, and Muscovy ducks are not really, they don't quack, they squeak. After a while, convinced the owners of this farm to breed them Instead of buying so many meat ducks, I just figured out like they're very good at hatching their own. So we finally convinced them to do that, and she did it. She was very protective of these eggs and her chicks, but you know, you could picture a mother, anything, it would just raise hell, you know, getting next to her babies. But a mother Muscovy duck just squeaks. I mean, just squeak. I mean, she just but ferociously. I mean, so and they mean it, but that's all they can muster. The reason that she's our mascot is because we just feel like we're really a small entity here, but we try to be larger than life or larger than we are. And
you can make some noise.
Yeah, we can make some noise. So
Do you have any of those ducks here?
we do.
There's a
We
couple
do.
out
We
there,
have a
yeah.
couple. So we're trying to breed them. So this is our solar food dehydrator, and the design originally came from Mother Earth News magazine. It has a few modifications. I used soda cans painted black for the collector part. Really all it has to be is just some sort of metal that's like painted black, really. The sun hits this, the air gets very hot, and it has a screen below there you can see. The hot air rises, goes up the stack, and then dries the food inside. Usually all convection, it's all passive, but I added a small 12-volt solar panel for assist with a 12-volt DC CPU fan. So it's kind of just to help it draw a little bit better.
Inside of the other shells. Oh yeah. So you're doing herbs?
Yeah, we do herbs. The farmers market we sell a ranch dressing mix. We usually buy most of the herbs from the bulk food depot, but we have been able to grow a lot of stuff that goes into that. Mainly parsley, dill, garlic, onion, and celery. It works good. The guy who was really recommending these was saying, like, if you're drying food on any scale, you better have a way to just cut your costs a little bit. So it works great. Yeah, it's on wheels. Sorry, what was your
Do you
question?
use it in the winter too?
We do, not so much though.
I don't have as many things I guess I'm trying to dry in the winter,
Yeah.
but it does get warm in there. And mostly you're just looking for low humidity day, that he put the solar assist fan on there to help with airflow. What I've mostly found is it works best to take things out and put them in the middle of the day after it's had a time to dry off as much as it's going to. You don't want to leave it in there overnight, it'll get soggy again. I've done a few sun-dried tomatoes. I'm going to try more this year. I think it didn't have quite enough airflow last year, and I'm going to try it with the solar assist. We got the screens. I don't know if he showed it at all. We found online a place that sells solar dehydrator tray screens. It's a food-grade plastic.
Yeah, that's
And
nice.
so I wanted to get stainless. It's been in there several days because I left it, but it will get dry in about a day. Stainless would be my choice, and I will probably do that at some point, but if anyone's looked into those trays, those are ridiculous.
Yeah. On a good 80, 90 degree day, you'll have about 120 degrees inside the stack here, which is more than you need. I mean, if you go to like, 140, you start cooking food. You're not really trying to cook food, you're trying to just dry it.
What do you use the dried dill and parsley and all onions for?
She puts it in jars, like ball jars, and it stays dry that way. But we have, like I was telling you, we actually use it in our ranch dressing mix. Experiment.
And it's in progress.
It's in progress. It's not like quite perfected yet. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of biogas and biogas digesters making biogas. It's methane. This design comes from a organization called Solar Cities, and they have open source plans and videos online that allow you to make your own methane. Methane is a gas that can completely swap out with propane. It's completely compatible with all propane devices. You do not have to pressurize it though. Propane is usually pressurized and has a pressure regulator on it. The pressure regulator takes a high pressure tank full of methane and allows it to go into a propane device at a very low pressure. That's what it's doing, it's reducing the pressure. With this, you don't really have to. You just use methane in, say, like a bag or something, and you put pressure on it by I've seen online videos where they throw a blanket over it. Like, the guy had a trash bag, duct tape shut, and he just the weight of a blanket was enough to just run it through his burner. This is a little different. I've got a bag here filling up that's supposed to be for like paintball targets. So it actually makes a barrel shape. That's why I got it. Right now it's full, and it's not full of methane. So I haven't figured out exactly how to make it do what it needs to do. I've heard you can overfeed them or feed them the wrong thing, and they'll produce a bacteria that that outcompetes the methanogens, which are bacteria that produce methane. Usually, if you can figure out how to take, say, sheep manure, goat manure, anything that farts, like an animal that has dung that produces methane, if you can keep those alive, keep them relatively warm, and they can have all the competition, they outcompete, you will get methane, and it burns just like propane. If this had methane in it, I could show you, but you just put a little pressure on it, just light the end of it, and it looks blue flame just like propane. That's incredibly safe, like inside the home, because this is anaerobic, so there's no oxygen in there, and there's not a chance for it to ever combust because it's got a water slurry in it as well. So even if there was a fire, it would just completely get extinguished. But I've seen people on the internet lighting these. They're sitting there off-gassing methane, and they light them, and then they just blow it out. I mean, it's so incredible. I'm still kind of chomping at the bit to try to figure out how to make this work. I think I overfed it.
Well, what we heard was after we got all anxious to get it started, and we put all sorts of things in there, they said the guy who invented this version of it, Kyle emailed him, he said something about it needs about 5 weeks of adjustment time with just manure and water maybe to get enough of the right bacterial culture that you will produce methane. So it's kind of like making yogurt or kimchi, I guess.
Yeah,
you need to do it right, and then you can feed it anything, which is what's so interesting and thrilling is people can put food scraps, including meat and dairy. They can put pet waste, scoop your litter box. You can use human waste. And you can make cooking fuel. And so we're really going to try to figure this one out. It's just going to take a little time. We'll probably have to drain it and restart.
All this is, guys, it's a septic tank. That's all it is. I mean, this is a 55-gallon barrel, but the concept is a septic tank. You're creating sepsis. I mean, it's some sort of bacteria that definitely produces methane. The original discoverer of methane discovered off-gassing off swamps. That's how he discovered it. And that was flammable, and so they say you're supposed to have it be as hot as the animal you got it out of. Like if you're using manure, you should keep it 100 degrees, just like it were in the sheep. But again, I can't really understand that because if it comes, swamps aren't hot that I'm aware of. They're in water, so I'm still tinkering.
Is this a batch method or a constant feed?
Well, it's a constant feed where you put the feed goes in the top feeding tube here, and then this is the affluent tube. So when it's full, it overspills into this. But
so you never have to stop and empty it out and start a new batch.
Correct.
Once you get it running.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. And what's coming out of here is fully digested, so it doesn't smell after it comes out of here. It's supposed to be like a slurry that's like a fertilizer. So it as you want all the possible energy you can get off of it, and what's left is a high nitrogen slurry that people can use on their gardens or in aquaponic systems or stuff like that. So in with the new, out with the old, and it's a direct displacement.
Can you explain the plumbing a little? Are there valves in there or something?
There's no valves. This tube goes all the way to the bottom.
It goes underwater.
And it's cut off at 45. So as soon as the food gets stuffed in there, it's going to go right to the bottom.
You ram it in.
Correct. Well,
if it's stuck, but
you
should show them your device.
But anyway, that's a gas seal, so methane can't come out.
Correct. Methane can't come out because it goes directly to the bottom of the pile, and that's shut off from all oxygens underwater. Okay. So then this is halfway up. There's a hole in the tube, so that when the stuff gets all digested, at that point the stuff at that level will be perfectly ready to just come up and out. You're supposed to use a T here instead of an elbow. If you were to use an elbow, it would siphon.
So you have to maintain the water level so you don't get methane out that tube?
No, methane can't come out of that either because it's below the gas level. So
where does your methane?
Methane comes out right here.
No, but inside, where does it go to? The bottom? Or where's the methane produced?
Methane it gets produced at the bottom, but it bubbles up to the top, so the water level is like right about
So
here.
there's a water level.
Yeah, there's a slight gas cap.
And you have to maintain that like a battery? Or, I mean, does the water evaporate and lower?
Well, sometimes what people have been doing is they take like food scraps that they go down a garbage disposal, and so it already would have had like a little bit of water. You make like a slurry.
Okay, so the water comes out there and... Okay.
Yeah, and the gas comes out here, and if you guys are interested, you don't have to, but you can actually unhook this and smell it. It smells like methane to me.
Probably sulfur.
It's probably sulfur dioxide though, because it has a little bit of an egg sort of smell. If you hit the sweet spot though, it'll smell like, you know, someone farted basically.
So you don't have a problem with the heavy sludge going to the bottom and...
And again, if you don't overfeed it, like we're talking about, there's a ratio of like how much food you can feed it and how much gas you win out of it. So if you just kept overfeeding it, that you would get a sludge. But there's not a problem because once it goes down there, it just keeps breaking down. Unless you're talking about bones, you know, which eventually I think would break down if it's organic, or silverware if it happened. I mean, and stuff like that, yeah. But overall, everything's supposed to digest completely. And for 5 weeks, let that just be what it is, and then start feeding it with this. You win back more I want to say BTUs, calories, same thing, whatever. If you pre-chew your food, that's what this is supposed to be for. I don't know if everybody can squeeze in here. Was that not in there?
I thought I was going to put vinegar in it.
They're really thirsty. These are golden comets. This is our new batch of chickens. We've got golden comets this time because the ones we picked last time were not very good layers. So when we got here, there was all these grapevines, like kind of just on the ground, and we've rescued them from the ground and put this trellis in, but it kind of doubles as like shade for them, so they poop below and fertilize it, and then they get the shade in return. So it's just a little symbiotic.
And are the grapes edible? I think
They are. They will be. They'll turn purple later if the coons don't get to them first.
So the ducks in here?
No, the ducks are over here, but I don't want this breed because like they have a tendency to overlay and they blew their fence out after 2 years, so I don't care for that, but I need eggs. So we're still talking with people in the area who have experimented a little more with like making their own mutts and breeds and trying to get the traits that they want. And I don't think so. If you take a chicken, if you take it in the direction of super layer, you've got a scrawny bird that not good for me. Take it in the other direction, you've got top heavy, very large breasted Cornish cross birds that are so heavy. They're good for me, but they're so heavy that they just fall. They break their legs. They just have heart attack. I mean, they're good for me. They're really good for. I mean, these are traits that are specialized traits, but people are trying to find that balance between a chicken that'll last more than 2 years and lay good, but then also be relative.
Rain capture on the house, and there's a rain barrel. That's where we get water for the plants that are nearby, but also for the chickens. We have mobile pasturing units for the summertime for all the animals that we can. These guys aren't out because they're still hawk food, but that grapes help with that too. They can get under this and not be seen. And we have the solar panel, PV panel here that we added this year to run a pump to be able to circulate it through the collector during the day, and yeah, it's really a nice thing to use in the summer. We're, like I said, we're going to try to get it on rainwater, and we also want one on the house so that we can have...
You can feel how hot it is here. It got pretty hot today.
Then it's going to heat up again, so it's really really good. It doesn't work super on a cloudy day, but in the summer, you're warm enough that you don't feel really chilly. So it has its season. That's why you want to supplement it with wood heat or biogas.
The latest edition, this had an AC pump, and so we put a solar panel with a DC pump to take it a little bit more off the grid. And the pump is actually very small. It's just that little guy right there, and under pressure it seems to really do a fabulous job circulating. But that's what they're for, is a hot water circulating. I think that was like $80. It was not that bad, and it just runs directly off the solar. So before we were doing an AC pump, and we would do a timer, so you just kind of, from this hour to this hour, you get pumping. But with this,
when you think there's the most sun.
yeah, when you think there's the most sun. But with this, it does it itself. You don't have to worry, like it. If there's sun, it's circulating and collecting. So, yeah. A manifold of like copper tubes with fins. You can see there, like
Basically
fins
like
that
the one at ours.
Yeah, it's just like what the one Ed has. Getting some poison ivy going there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never met them. That's the male telling you things.
Look at them. I'm so happy to see you.
What breed are they? Muscovy. I think so. I think he's telling us that.
Get out of here.
Aggressive. Yeah. This is one of the larger portion of our market garden.
Now that's a big chicken.
Yes, and that's the rooster. He's banished from the hens over here because he keeps tearing the feathers out of their back.
Ooh. Oh, he's so pretty.
That'll take a while to get back, but it'll come back.
You're not happy with this, huh?
So, similarly to the sprouting, one other thing people can use to cut costs for feeding ducks, particularly, and fish, if you ever do backyard fish, is duckweed. And the little spots, the green spots you see on the surface of this pond. I'm growing a lot more of it over here in this tank on the roof. I'll show you what it looks like here.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have probably seen this on ponds. Most people don't want it on their ponds, but it's a nutrition powerhouse, and ducks love it, and it grows very quickly. So if you give it half a chance, it'll blanket the surface of any pond, and ducks really do love it.
Have you tried it?
I have not tried it. They say people can eat it, but it's called duckweed.
Oh.
The claim is that that wild ducks don't eat it, but domestic ducks do. I can't really see that being true. If you give it to a duck, like they just absolutely love it. I could show you guys later, but
So they're the ones that keep it under control.
these guys have been led into this. That's why I'm growing it on the roof of the duck house here, so that nobody has access to it. So.
Mobile pasturing units, kind of like a covered wagon. We did a lot of salvage materials. The lumber tarps you can mostly see, got them from Carter Lumber. And again, the stock panels. Got some old bicycle wheels that we used to move it. And then we got lumber from a local sawmill. We found after our first year this swayed a lot in the wind, so we added these conduit pieces to stabilize it, and now it's not tearing itself apart. But it's pretty. I want to make a better way to lift this, but you can move it very easily. And Kyle made a nest box. I think this is probably solar panel pallets that we took apart, thin plywood, and it stays up here. A couple roosts.
So Greg here was the one that told us that Carter Lumber gets rid of their tarps, their lumber tarps, periodically, and they'll just give them to you, and so that's what we use. We use a lot of it. We've discovered Carter stopped doing this.
You guys would like to have a pond, wouldn't you? But other things would still eat them. Males are in a summer molt of sorts, so they don't have their gorgeous green heads. What we use is the male. That's our deer fence. It's 2 4-foot fences instead of 1 8-foot, and the ducks can go in between, and they can have a pond, and it's a multi-use fence.
Last year, but this is our new batch. We've got a buck all by himself and 2 females separated from the buck, obviously, and then I think by now we have
There's 11 babies.
11 babies total.
Supplement, we do alfalfa pellets and the sprouted grain, but it's probably at least half.
Last year we actually did grow the babies out on that. So we
Ever since they were weaned.
Correct. Once they were weaned, we got them in an election net and just let them be in that. If they're alone and bored, they'll dig under that. But I think if they're as a group, they think 100 feet of election net is quite enough.
Under her neck?
Yeah.
That's just called a dewlap. That's just something rabbits have. Her leg is hanging down.
She figured it out.
This one Kyle built a nest box on too, so we had the rabbits over there in a cage when they were born, and we moved them out here when they were really little, so they got to learn pasture right away.
Do they live off of eating the grass?
Yes, they do, and we feed them some too. Mostly they get it all themselves. So these are some of the young ones.
These are even smaller.
They're the youngest. I think they're about 8 weeks old.
Is that brown one the mom?
Yes.
Oh, the white one's the father?
No, that's another mother as well. The father is the dark one over there, and his color is dominant. All the babies look like him. They call it black otter rex.
So do they bite if they get scared?
Mostly scratch. You'll be in danger of a really bad scratch. They don't bite.
Do rabbits, I heard they have a tendency to overheat really easily.
They do. I would probably like to add some more insulation to their roofs. But otherwise, they've been doing all right.
Used to have some rabbits that you would freeze half gallons
Oh yeah,
of
I
water
would like
or
to
milk
do that
jugs
as well.
and throw them in there and they'd lay against them.
That'd be a good idea. I could do that. That'd be good for winter day.
They were all like, they're just giving them. People were like, we're just going to kill them if you don't take us. All right, we'll take them.
For the electric fence. Those raccoons out of there. Electric mower. Extra bedroom. The rooster pecks the backs of his girlfriends. So that's why he's not with them all the time. Love her.
To make it 8 foot, and deer cannot scale that, or you do 2 4s this way, and they can't jump all the way across. And even if they did, they don't like confined spaces. So this allows the deer to keep out, but it also goes all the way around the garden and creates a run, like a patrol run for chickens and ducks to eat bugs before they get to the garden. So that's the permaculture idea anyway.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, thanks.
Lavender, potatoes.
I didn't discover that you really don't need them. Actually, plants love water, but they have the ability to take it out of the air, and they condense it. That's what we see as dew on the leaves of everything in the morning. And again, it's more ideal if you have water fed, but you really don't super duper. So,
unless you have raised beds, but yours are not really raised.
yeah, they were originally raised. Yeah. We raise them every year. We do a broad fork and then add some material. And,
but they have contact with soil. We
correct.
Have raised beds.
50 through 7.
Right.
Mine are garlic.
Yeah, it was funny. I had them sitting on the picnic table in their little seedling things, where I've been raising them, and they were sitting in a basic.
I like that latch thing. That's pretty neat.
This way. So the only way it can be opened is from the center pivot point that pulls it up. That activates, and it locks in these channels here.
That's great.
You couldn't have it quite yet figured out.
Nope.
Somebody's invention, huh?
Somebody's invention. I don't know. The rabbit cervical dislocator. So one of the ways to kill the rabbit is their back of their head goes here, and you pull back, and it just completely snaps their neck. They hang here, and this is to finish the gutting and everything here. But this is just stainless sink, and we want to get like water hooked up to out here. And then the cone is for chickens, so you put the chicken in upside down, and their head goes inside the cone, their feet sticks out, and that lets the blood drain down into the bucket.
When I was a kid, they used to hang them on clothesline. It was charming.
Yeah. For scalding feathers is we have this little, it's called a rocket stove, and basically we put it on one of these blocks and like boil water in that pot there for scalding the feathers off. And it seems to work really good. It doesn't have to be like super duper hot, but this gets really hot because it's super efficient little stove. It's an insulated wall. Yeah, it just burns little small sticks. So we actually used it very recently to do a rooster. Actually, one of the roosters that we'll be eating tonight, we got done this way. So it worked really good. Over here is the start of another one of those ways to cut feed costs that people are trying to get into. It's actually growing insects. One in particular is called black soldier fly larva. And a black soldier fly looks like a wasp. It's a wasp mimic, but they don't sting, they don't bother people, they don't like go into people's houses. And they make a larva, a grub that's really big and fat, not slimy like a housefly larva. It's very like rough and leathery, but they're how much protein? 42% protein, 32% fat or something like that. And people will feed them to chickens and fish, and they eat anything, like throw in biomass in the bin. We've got it set up so that you just throw stuff in it. We got stuff in it right now, but
No little critters.
Not at the moment. Last year we did have them show up. They're wild native species, pollinator species here. They came and invaded the grain mash below our ducklings' feed because it was grain and water. They laid their eggs in there. We were hoping they'd show up again, that we could collect larvae. You can order them online as well. We haven't started it up yet, but
basically, if you put biomass in these bins and you give them a 30-degree ramp, I don't know if you saw the ramp in there, they'll eat their food, and when they're ready to become adults, they want to crawl up. And so if you give them that ramp, they just crawl up the ramp and then over the edge of the receptacle.
Self-harvesting.
And they self-harvest. We've been hatching chickens in our we have a little 7-egg incubator, and so we hatched 4 chickens that way, and then we had one of our chickens just hatched her own, like 3 or 4. But if we like always just have chickens, we'll always have something to butcher. And what's cool about this is, since it's right next to the butchering station, you throw the guts right in this bin with black soldier fly larvae, and they'll convert that over to biomass. People like to say they're garbage disposal. There's some things they won't eat. Pigs probably maybe eat more than chickens will, but even there's even some things they won't eat. But if you fed black soldier fly larvae, which literally eat most any biomass, feed those, chickens will eat them, ducks, fish, backyard tilapia. People do like aquaponic systems, they'll eat that. If you do, what's the other thing? I think pigs will eat them. I mean, pigs are usually forced animals that root just like chickens do. And so they're looking for bugs. They'll definitely eat them. People can eat them.
And one of the things I read about the large-scale places that are doing in South Africa, they're growing them on slaughterhouse waste as chicken and fish feed on large scale, think 50-pound bags of bug larvae, to mostly replace ocean fish as part of the farmed fish diet, which is a really huge problem. That we're fishing the oceans to death and then feeding it to our farmed fish.
Right. In theory, and this might sound gross to a lot of people, we're not doing this, but we have heard that black soldier fly larvae can eat human waste because it's very high protein. I guess I don't know. It's just
there's a lot of food materials still.
Yeah, there's a lot of food materials. Correctly, that's correct. That's not broken down. She mentioned the slaughterhouse waste. People ask, well, why can't you just feed the slaughterhouse kind of stuff to like chum the fish, or feed it directly to chicken? And the answer to that is these things are like piranhas. Like if you put a carcass in there, they will like clean it all, like just take every last piece of meat off of it. Whereas if you gave a carcass of something to a chicken, good luck. Like they'll pick on it here and there, but it'll dry up and they won't be able to get everything. Still getting in there, Go figure.
Worms on the broccoli.
Scale is covered against the worms, but it's still getting eaten.
Got in anyway.
Point where we decided we would try turkeys this year, so we've got 5 turkeys. An angel investor who's been very helpful. He's a guy named Jacques. He comes from Columbus every Monday. He buys our eggs, and he actually delivers food to the food pantry in Mineral.
Oh.
And so he's been coming to our place. He buys our produce. He did a CSA, and he kind of gives us some money for things here and there, just because he loves what we're doing. He pre-bought 1 turkey. 2 are still for sale, and then 1 will be our Thanksgiving dinner. So we decided we'd try it. I'm not sure what price we landed on yet.
Variety?
The variety, it's a heritage breed. That's like a bourbon red, I think that's what you call them.
How old are
They're
about a month old. Yeah. Hi dear. Think I'm gonna feed you?
The fence is on, so don't.
Yeah, watch
don't
the
push
fence.
Okay. Watch out over there with the fence. Milk soap there as well as produce, and I hope to get a lot of local products as well.
Have you had it open at all?
A couple days, but we need more signs down the way to let people see it before they zoom on by. We set up our tent out there before we built it a couple times and had some good traffic. But we get a lot of egg customers driving by, so we have lots of other things for
Is
sale
eggs
too.
your main thing people stop to buy?
Mostly, yeah, at the moment. But I have a few people that come by and get vegetables as well.
Are you actually standing in there, or is it honor system?
Well, I think we're going to have hours that we set to be out there, probably mostly over the weekends or evenings. So.